This is one of my most incredible interviews. It's actually the most transformational videos. Alexandra Kenny. She's still so young, but has been through so freaking much. She's got children, so she had to make sure that her health, she had to get better because she was going down a really, really unhealthy path. She had sciatica, nerve pinching, depression, anxiety, chronic adrenal fatigue, fibromyalgia, IBS, just constantly in pain. She was on so many medications. Now she's living a best life with her family and she's looking absolutely amazing. And she shares right from the beginning of her story of how all these issues came about to where she is now. Highly recommend watch the whole video or just watch it in chunks because it's so helpful, especially if you're on this journey of healing, this sacred path. Also at the end we share something really exciting, so definitely stay to the end. If you are new here, please subscribe to the channel. If you like this video, thumbs up, and also turn on the bell notification if you want to support this channel and also to get notified when the next video is out. Enjoy. So we have Alexandra. So do share just a little bit about yourself, Alexandra, like where you're from, your fam, a little bit about your family, and perhaps we can go into your story of reaching raw veganism.
Yeah, so my name's Alexandra Kenny. I'm Hygienic Mama on Instagram, and I own and run the Hygienic Human Diet Facebook page. I grew up on the East Coast of the US, and I ate a standard diet growing up. I was very athletic as a kid. I was a competitive cheerleader. I
Oh,
also grew up
wow.
playing soccer. I went mountain biking all the time with my father and my brothers. Um, and uh, and yeah, I kind of lived like what I thought was a kind of normal childhood. There was a good amount of stress in my life as a kid. Um, and I started to, have health issues when I was pretty young. I was like 5 years old. And I was having severe migraines,
Oh, wow.
and then I started having a lot of stomach problems. And I was nervous a lot too, and I started having stomach problems. And then when I was maybe like 10 or 12, I got like a spot of psoriasis on my scalp. And then I, went to a dermatologist or something about that, and they prescribed, some like steroid foam or cream. Um, and it didn't, it never kept it away. And so it kind of just grew from there. And when I was like 12 and 13, I also started drinking coffee all the time. So on top of my, standard diet, which was, a bagel and cream cheese for breakfast and a ham and cheese sandwich for lunch with chips. And then for dinner was, spaghetti with Prego and meat sauce. Um, you know, then I was drinking coffee also every morning with like a lot of creamer in it and sugar or a flavored creamer, which was a real treat for me. I had my own special
Yeah.
coffee mug I would take to like high school with me.
I never liked
And I
that.
was
That was at high school for coffee at
yeah,
a young age. Wow. I've never been into coffee.
yeah. So I mean my mom went to like Einstein Bagels, and the coffee always smelled really good because it was like flavored with like chocolate and cherry, and
That's what
it
they
was
do.
very enticing. Yeah, it was
Yeah.
very enticing. So I started drinking it, and I also I had a pretty late night routine as a child as well. So we were doing homework at 10 o'clock at night and going to
Oh,
bed at 11 and 12. Then I'd be getting up at, maybe 6:30 in the morning to go to high school because school started at 7:15 for high school.
wow.
Um, and so, you know, now studying what I do and experiencing what I have, knowing what I know because I've experienced it, um, I can see the things that were not, not healthy and the things that were creating disease.
Yeah.
Um, but at the time, had no idea. It's just, and when I went to the doctor, it was like, oh, it's unfortunate. It can be hereditary, and
Yeah.
like my grandmother had like some psoriasis. I think I had a cousin that had like a few spots of it for a small time in her life. So it was just it was something that I was a victim of. It was out of my control. And so I like I said, I was very athletic. I started competitive cheerleading when I was 7 years old. I was always very physically fit and very strong. I cheerleaded for like 22 to 24 hours a week, training. And so that was like a huge part of my life, and that was a lot of my happiness in life was my sport. And it was also, it was a big part of like my discipline, I feel like, and, working with a team. And it was very good for me. And I'm excited to, have these experiences watching my children grow up now, as in the sports, because I think it's really good to exercise and to work with others, and all of that is very, very positive.
Yeah.
Um, so, but then when I was like 13 or 14 years old, I blew my knee out while I was cheerleading. And so that like landed me like out of cheerleading for like 6 months or so.
Wow.
Well, in those 6 months or so, I was like a teenager. I was like 13 or 14, and my boyfriend smoked cigarettes at the time. So I started smoking some cigarettes
Oh,
sometime.
wow.
And yeah, and so my parents found them and they were like, "Well, we're not going to pay for your privileged sport because it was expensive for what I was doing, and if
Yeah.
you're going to be making choices, to smoke cigarettes." So that was the end of my cheerleading career. And
Oh,
that's when like I started to make more poor choices for myself in my life. That's when, I started drinking with my friends. It changed like my what I was spending my time doing,
yeah. Wow.
and
Spiraling.
yeah,
Maybe like
so
this. You spiraled.
yeah. I mean, it didn't feel like that at the time, but it was,
Yeah.
and it was definitely like my life was going downhill. And then, I went from the 14-year-old boyfriend to an 18-year-old boyfriend, and he had a car, and then he was smoking weed. So I started smoking weed, and, he was doing drugs. So then I started doing drugs. And yeah, so I just was making my body more toxic, and more sick, and my psoriasis got worse. And when I was 15 years old, now at this time too, I had still been going for treatments for my psoriasis. I had done like light box treatments. I had been on steroids for several years, on creams and stuff, because it doesn't cure you. It just treats the
It's a
symptom, but the
band-aid,
thing
isn't
is,
it? Yeah.
yeah, but the thing is that your body also gets used to it too. And I remember one time I had a steroid cream like prescribed, and I put it on my scalp, and it made my hair fall out, like in that spot. And I was lucky because it kind of burned my scalp, and I was lucky my hair came back in that spot, honestly. But
Wow.
yeah, so at the time, my life was kind of falling apart, and it was falling apart at home too. It was hard at my house. It didn't feel healthy, it didn't feel safe. And for me, I was looking for instant gratification. And that's what my whole, smoking, hanging out with people that just wanted to be happy and have fun,
Yeah.
but meanwhile I was ruining my body, I was ruining myself. And at the time I knew that, and I really didn't care. To
Yeah.
me, like, I got to a spot where in my mind, I didn't care if I died. I didn't care what happened to me because I was sad, and
Yeah.
I felt very helpless, in this situation to like help myself, or I didn't know how to make myself feel better, so I was trying to hang out with people that were just happy and wanted to have fun, but that wasn't the reality of the choices we were making, what they were creating long term, and what we were doing to ourselves was definitely hurting ourselves. So
Yeah.
so yeah, so I partied for about a year. And then I met my next boyfriend, which was my husband, and he was like an angel in my life, and he did not behave like everybody else did.
Wow.
And he told me, like, if you do things like that, I'm not going to talk to you anymore. And he felt very safe to me, and
What a keeper.
um yeah, and he's my husband,
Yeah.
and so yeah, so then he worked for his father's company, and at the time he I was in high school. I was a sophomore, so I was 15 years old, I think, and he had gotten asked to go to a different branch for his dad's company. And so I left my parents' house when I was 15 and went and moved like 3 hours away. And I did drop out of high school because when I moved, I tried to go to the local high school, like a public high school, while I was there, and then I would just work at nights, and on the weekend. But the public high school wouldn't take me because my address, my parents' address was three
What's
hours
that?
away.
Wow. Yeah.
Even though they had a program for like Hispanic and other children where they like you could come into class any day and they would allow you, they
Oh,
wouldn't allow me, which was kind of felt unfair at the time. But it was what it was, and it led me on my path. So then I started in a GED program, and I was working three jobs. I worked at Quiznos from 9 to 5, then from 5 to 9 every day. I worked at the tanning salon. I got the tan for free. When I was at Quiznos, I got to eat a sub for free, and for lunchtime. And then on the weekends, I would clean my husband. Like I said, my husband's father owned the company that he worked for, and my husband actually got moved to go and like fix the branch and make it better, and more efficient, and like clean it up and do better for his father's company. So on the weekend, I got hired as like an LLC company to clean their facility and their men's bathrooms. And I made good money doing that, so I was very happy to do it, and
yeah.
he would go in and just do his work, and I would clean the facility. And then so like 2 months later, uh when I did get started we lived there very briefly. And when I did, because he did a good job, and then his dad was like, okay, well, I want to move you here now. You did a great job there. I'm putting you at the next branch. So then I actually was able, when we moved to the next branch, I was able to actually drive myself back to my original high school. So I went back to school and I got my real diploma. I was like a year delayed because we had moved away for that time.
Yeah.
But still, I got to go to like a small program, like a morning program, where I went to school from 7 in the morning until 9 in the morning. And then the rest of the day I went and I did work study, where I would go and I worked at a local salon for work. And then I would drive home at night and get home at like 9 o'clock at night. I would make my husband dinner. I would do my homework, and then get up at
He
5
was
a.m. the next
busy. Was your
day.
diet? Was your diet was it starting to get better, or was that
No, no. So it was
affecting
very
you eating?
bad. So at that time, I was smoking a pack of cigarettes a day. I
Oh,
was I was eating macaroni and cheese and bagel bites and hot dogs, like anything that was easy and cheap, and no, it wasn't good at all. And my psoriasis was bad. And I also was very sedentary. So I wasn't really into exercising all the time. I certainly was not hydrated or focused on hydration, which is huge and key for our wellness is
mhm.
hydration.
Yeah,
And that is a huge driver of disease, is just simply being dehydrated.
yeah,
Um,
yeah.
and so no, so I wasn't doing well. And then as the years went on, we moved a few other times. And then um I eventually started going to a chiropractor because I got this was in my early, I graduated high school when I was 18. Then I went right to hair school. I got certified as a barber. And then after that, um started working in the hair salon. I did extremely well as a hairstylist. I absolutely loved it, loved it, loved it. I got to take care of others, and make them feel good about themselves. And I got to be really creative as an artist, which I grew up with, drawing with my father. He was a pencil portrait artist. So it really was my passion. And I've always been very passionate about learning. And so after, what I was interested in anyway. So after I got out of school, I went to a learning program for hair where I learned how to be, an exceptional hairstylist.
You've
And
done
then
a few
after
things.
that,
You've done
yeah, so
amazing. Yeah.
after that, I loved it so much that I decided, I'm going to create my own program for people that just get out of school, and I'm going to teach people that get out of school to be like a fabulous hairstylist, not just
Yeah.
regular, but really be amazing. And so that's what I did. I created a curriculum. It was a 12-month curriculum for hairstylists, and I had the pleasure of training these young girls and to be their best hairstylist selves.
Mm.
And it was amazing because it got to it helped other people in their life. And
So
it
you've
really
gone, so
when
you
you
already have this ability to help others. I can see from the group that you have. I'll definitely put that in the description box. It's so helpful. So you've gone from just look, I can see your light, when you're helping others, your face, like
yeah, I love
already the
it.
relax, I can see you
Yeah.
relaxing and you become yourself. So I think from from that you can see straight away your path is there to help others, and that's you can see this now with what you're creating with the diet because of the challenges that you face. Could you go into more of the health side and how it got so bad, or obviously leading up and then just totally changed? What was that moment that I would say the that main it changed the trajectory of what you was eating to what you're eating now?
Well, I think just to give a little bit of perspective, so by the time I was 20, by the time I was 17 years old, I was taking injections of DMARDs. I was on infusion drugs for DMARDs, which is a disease modifying anti-rheumatic drug that they put like 60-year-olds on that have rheumatic diseases or lupus or Crohn's, any autoimmune diseases. They'll put, these people on a 3-hour drip. Well, for me, when I would get these drips, I would go into anaphylaxis. So it would be a 7-hour drip infusion every 6 weeks.
Wow.
And it was absolute hell. And I was getting, I started to get stiff, which I was dehydrated. I was eating a terrible diet. I wasn't exercising, but it was all misfortune. That's what I was, and it's like you kind of know better, but you're being told like you're just unfortunate, like maybe cut out gluten, but besides that, it is what it is, and there's nothing you can do about it. So I was getting injections into my hips, injections into my feet, injections into my spine. I got several cortisone epidurals in my early 20s. I was on chemo, which I was put on at 17. So I was taking chemo injections every week, the maximum dose.
Oh,
And I took
oh.
those for 11 years. Yeah, I took those for 11 years. And then I was also injecting myself every 2 weeks with DMARDs. And I was on 20 medicines, and I was getting surgeries every year, and it was not fun. And I was suffering in absolutely chronic, debilitating pain at this point because the more medicines they gave me, I just got sicker and more acidic,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
I was just becoming more dehydrated, more acidic. At the same time, I was pushing myself to work,
Yeah.
when my body was just not
Shutting
well. But
down.
there
Yeah.
was ways out of this. I would smoke weed to not be in as much pain. I would drink a lot of coffee to have energy,
And just making it
which was,
where you can see now, like, wow, the
yeah.
what you was doing. Is
So then I
anyone in your
found,
family? Did anyone in your family have this experience?
no, my
No.
mom, my mom has Hashimoto's, like thyroid.
Okay.
Um, but no. So then I kind of came across a chiropractor when I was getting a nerve conduction study done. And I was just telling this guy with the nerve conduction study, I'm like, because I also had chronic sciatica. I had sciatica down both my legs for years. And I mean, that was it was just cutting and unbearable pain. But I wouldn't take any pain medicines because from hanging out with kids that did drugs when I was a kid, I knew I was not touching those medicines. And besides that, I knew that if I started taking those medicines, I was going to graduate, because your body gets used to, like, it builds a tolerance to this
Yeah.
stuff.
Yeah.
So like, what do you do after you're like maxed out, and so anyway, I would never take pain meds, but I was on several like pain meds that were, neurological drugs for pain, stuff like Lyrica or things for fibromyalgia, things for nerve pain, stuff like this. That's where the 20 drugs came from, is all this, you take one and then you need the other one to help the
Oh,
other,
oh
it's
gosh.
just, it was
Never
ridiculous.
ends.
And yeah, so then the turning point for me was I found a chiropractor, and he started to, adjust me. And he also was like, we need to get you off some of these meds. You're on a lot of medicine, and you're really young, I don't think you really need all these meds. So like, I need you to do what I'm going to tell you to do, and you need to give me like 3 months, and I'm gonna help you, but you have to do what I tell you to do. And I'm like, okay, fine, because I did all these other modalities. I did herbal medicine. I did acupuncture religiously. I went to spiritual healers. I did, other diets, like to perfection, all trying to fix whatever the problem was, and it never ever got fixed. So then this guy started to, like, really just share information with me, and he would print out, different things, and it really made me understand that diet played a huge role in how I felt. So first, he had me cut out, like, refined sugars, and he had me cut out gluten, and I cut out dairy. And then, and my diet, at that time was like chicken and rice and vegetables, but it's still coming from a processed food diet. It made a difference, and cutting out the gluten and dairy, it made a difference. So then, like, I started to learn about this, and then I did that for several years, but I could never get off of my injections or my chemo. And I did end up getting off the chemo, um, because I was on the other injections. And once I got off the chemo, then it was like, well, I said, like, can I get pregnant? Because they had told me you should never try to get pregnant, because um, if you get pregnant on chemo, we have to give you a medical abortion. And also, you being off of your medicine, you could become crippled during the pregnancy to where you're never going to walk again.
Yeah.
So, it was like, well, my husband and I had always planned on just having businesses, not having children, really, because it didn't seem like that was really ever in the cards. And we were okay with that. We had our animals. We were very happy together. We were very fulfilled in our life. So
Yeah.
we were just happy in the moment. That was okay. But
Yeah.
then, as I started to get better, and it was like, they said, well, you're off your chemo now. You could get pregnant if you wanted to. And it was like, we could. Okay. So then, like, the first month we tried, we got pregnant. And yeah. And so, and that was like a blessing, but it was also a wake up call. And in my first pregnancy, I had my daughter at 31 weeks. And I had like I had what was called HELP syndrome, which is like advanced what is it again, Jeff? Preeclampsia,
Oh.
which is, basic. Yeah, it's like, yeah. So basically, it's a high toxicity, high fat, like dehydrated situation. And at the time I didn't know that, but so then after I had my baby girl, I was staying up all night, trying to breastfeed her because she was, a preemie baby. I stayed with her from, the day she was born. Well, actually, I was in ICU when they did a, emergency C-section. But 3 days later, when I got to be with my baby, um, I stayed with her every second of every day until she's 5 years old now. and I didn't sleep, and I put her first, and I really like, at the time I was eating normal, and it was bad for me. So after I had her, like 4 months after, my hands and my feet were enormous. My fingernails were starting to come off. And they were like, if you don't stop breastfeeding her and go back on like chemo and your injections, you're never going to walk. You're never going to play with your baby. When she starts to run, you're not going to be able to run with her, everything. So I kept breastfeeding her for 3 months after that, and until I absolutely couldn't take it anymore. And she was, almost 8 months old. And then I stopped breastfeeding and succumbed to what they told me I had to do because I didn't know any other way.
Yeah.
Then when she was about a year old, I got pregnant with my son, and I had gone vegan at that time. So at that time, I've always been seeking like how to better my health, because the reason I started seeking these modalities is because I wasn't born sick like this.
Yeah.
It was like
Yeah.
a process. It was a process of becoming, as diseased as I was. So I knew that there had to be a way out of it, because it just didn't make sense to me. So then, I had found that like a lot of people that go vegan, they experience a lot of like symptom relief with having
Yeah.
psoriasis. So I went vegan, and I did much better. And at that time too, I'd started going to a nutrition response coach, similar to a chiropractor but different. And she was treating me with like herbs, and she told me to go back on meat and vegetables. And I was like, I can't do
Gosh.
that. Like, it makes me feel really bad. And
Yeah.
she's like, well, this is what it's saying your body needs. So, like, you should do it. So I went back to eating meat and vegetables. And, she told me no fruit, no sugar at all. And I'm like, that sounds awful. So I did it anyway, and it made me feel really, really, really bad. And she also put me on about 4,000 milligrams of adrenal desiccated every day, which like absolutely made my nerves distraught. And this was killing me. Like,
Wow.
I was already, an exhausted mother, and going back to this was absolutely like putting me in the grave. And so at that time, I had found out about like Dr. Robert Morse, and like eating a fruit diet, and all these people healing by, eating fruits. And I got in consultations with like some of, his professionals, and they had wanted to prescribe herbs. And I was like, no, I'm not doing that again. Like, I just did that. That was an awful experience for me. And so then I found, natural hygiene. And that's when I started to, eat fruits, and started to cut everything else out that I was eating, like cooked potatoes, or vegan chicken tenders that I would cut up and put on salads, and like homemade honey mustard sauces that I would make, or dips. And I started to go like high fruit. So I'd have fruit in the morning, fruit for lunch. And then I have like, a salad with cooked vegetables for dinner. And then from there, I, eventually went, raw at night as well.
Okay.
And I did it in a pretty short amount of time, because when my husband's family sold their company, and when they did, my shots that I was on, because I was still on one shot that I could never get off of, this DMARD shot. And I had just weaned myself off of prednisone that I had been on for 4 years since I had my daughter. And I had that such bad flare up that they had put me on really high prednisone. And I was determined to not stay on prednisone. So I
Yeah.
got myself off of it after being on it 4 years. And then, so then I started to practice this diet. And at first, I really suffered. I was really swollen, really, really, really swollen. Uh, my husband thought I absolutely was hurting myself, and was really concerned for me. And I know it was
Scary.
hard for
That's
him.
scary. Yeah.
Yeah, it was hard for him to see me, like, because, yeah, when I got cut, so my husband's family, when they sold their company, I got cut off my last shot. So my shot was like $8,000 a month. And his insurance,
Really?
his company, yeah, his company was big enough that it was like self-pay. His company would pay these the drugs out,
Yeah.
and but for that one they had like a maximum. And so I got kind of booted off of it. And at the time I was breastfeeding my son, and where this was the only drug that was safe for you to breastfeed on, suddenly my doctor had second thoughts and was like, you could probably breastfeed on the other one. It's probably okay. But for me,
Oh,
injecting myself with these poisons in general, pregnant or breastfeeding, felt like a horrible idea, because
yeah.
when you inject yourself with this stuff, it burns like battery acid, so it it just, for me, everything happened at the same time to like push me to do. And at the same time too, I had two babies. And as as a child, I always wanted my mom to tell me like what I could do to fix myself. Like, and I had a neighbor, at the time, and she had MS, or she had lupus, and her daughter had MS. Both ate a terrible diet.
Mm.
And I thought to myself, like, I'm not going to raise my daughter or my son to be sick like me. Like, if there is a way that people can eat that reverses disease and maintains health, that is what I have to do. It's not just about me, it's about them,
Yeah.
and it's the same reason I wouldn't do the other injection, because, when I gave up breastfeeding my daughter to go back on that medicine, that went against everything natural inside of me instinctually as a mother, to
Hmm.
provide for my child.
Yeah.
So I wasn't about to do it again with my son, when if there was a better way, no matter how hard it was, I was going to do it,
You just
And
trusted it.
so,
You just trust the process.
yeah,
He was obviously learning
I just
about
had
it.
to.
Yeah. He was
Yeah,
learning
I
about
just had to. And so I did it. And I did get worse at first, but I hadn't been off of drugs since I was a child. Like, suddenly I wasn't on medicine anymore. I had been on medicine since I was 12 years old.
it.
I had been on intravenous and injectable medicine since I was 17 years old. And now I'm 33, so I was like 31, I guess, when I started, and I'm free. And so, like, I just, in my mind, kept telling myself and knowing, like, it's going to get better. So I'd push myself all the time to like become more mobile, because when I first came off of my medicine, I was crippling up pretty quickly. And I wasn't able to walk well. I would cry when I walked, and I wasn't able to really use my hands, which was a problem, because I was taking care of my two babies. And so to like put them in their car seat, to push the button to get them out of their car seat, or just to click their car seat closed, I would cry sometimes because the pain was so bad. But I just kept following my intuition, and my intuition would tell me, like, you need to move your body, you need to walk, you need to exercise in whatever capacity you are physically able, and then you need to push yourself further while you're doing that exercise, like push through pain, gain mobility, and you're going to get better, you're going to keep getting better, you are getting better, and I did. And so I
Wow.
got really bad at first, and then I started to get really good. And I would celebrate it, like when I could jump, like that was a big deal for me. And I would say to my husband, look at me, I can jump, and
Yeah,
it was like
wow.
being a kid, but
Amazing.
it it was a big deal, because, you know, it was it was it was amazing, because they told me this wasn't possible. You know what
Yeah.
I mean? And so, like, and to stick to something where it's hard, food addiction is real, and it's very short-sighted. It's very momentary. It's something that we make a really big deal out of, but it's very
Yeah.
momentary. It's very fleeting.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
normally you crave something, all you need to do is eat.
Yeah.
Like, if you fill your belly, you're not going to be like craving something really anymore. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
so, but it, like, we put this like big deal on it. So I felt I
It's the
felt very
meaning
hurt
we
for
put
myself.
around things, isn't it? It's the meaning we put around it. However, sometimes overcoming that gives us our power back as well, not just reacting in that moment like you just shared. It's very
Yeah,
fleeting. It will just pass, not even giving into it. Or if you do,
exactly.
um, yeah, you'll learn what can I take from that. So much more in another conversation with addictions. Definitely have to have you back on the channel for that. So where you at now,
Yeah.
Alexandra, with 2 years on then? So it's been 2 years with no medication.
Yeah, no year 2 years with no meds. So my nails, which were falling off, are almost like completely healed. My toenails are completely healed. I have no swelling in my toes anymore. My fingers are still like they still won't bend all the way, and that's something I don't know if I will ever, get back. To be honest, because I think once like your joints kind of set in, if
Yeah.
it's if
Oh
it's set
no.
in too good, it's not going to go back. But I'm only 2 years in, and like
Yeah.
I really don't know what the possibilities could possibly be. But what I do know is that like this has just been so transformative, and my skin is, so great now compared to what it was. And I feel amazing, in my mind and energetically. And I suffered with depression a lot as a kid and anxiety too. And
Mhm.
I simply don't deal with those things anymore at all. And it really the only thing that I changed was my diet. And it's
I've
even
seen
just,
that. I've seen
yeah,
that
and
pattern
like
with people with the
I
energy
used to
depression.
I used to smoke all the time too, like smoke weed. And I don't feel the need to do that or the desire at all,
Yeah.
at all. Like I feel the best I ever have in my life, and it's all because of what I eat and what I don't eat. It's
We don't realize
because
how powerful it is, do we? I think we kind of take it for
not at
granted.
all.
We do in some ways, but we're like, oh, we can get away with it, especially when you're younger, especially more even up into 40s. That at my I always thought you could get away with it, or it's not gonna it can't be that damaging. We don't realize how bad because it's legalized, all these
Yeah.
packaged foods, processed foods, and it just shows you from so many transformations, and people are so frightened to go the opposite way. But like yourself, when we're sharing yours, that's why you've got a mission. You've got a mission sharing, reassuring others that if we lean into it, just trust this process because I've healed it, others are healing it. And look at
Yeah.
yours is it's huge.
And
We
and
need
I think
you need to
too,
be
it's like
out there so much
I,
sharing.
I think too, it's just that to learn that like we don't have to indulge in, alcohol or junk food or whatever to enjoy ourselves and like to
Yeah,
have a great time. Because when when your body feels good, you always feel like you always feel like very pleasant, and you always feel like you're having a great time. Like everything is so much more enjoyable simply,
yeah,
when your mind is at ease because it's not on drugs, that are so common to be eaten starting at a young age, like even
yeah.
infancy, and so it's amazing to me. And I wish it for everyone, but I also know that like everybody is on their own journey. And so
Yeah.
I really appreciate, the people that are interested in doing the best for themselves, because I think that we all affect each other, and so it's not for me, like, it wasn't just about me why I did it. It was for my kids,
Yeah.
and because I know what I choose affects them, and so, I just
What do you eat
yeah,
now?
I feel
What is it
so
what is your current diet? What do you eat?
yeah, so I normally eat like a mono meal of fruit or a smoothie for breakfast. And then for lunch, either either of those, a monomeal of fruit, or a smoothie for lunch, or I might have a salad with fruit for lunch. And then for dinner, normally a salad for dinner. Some days I'll have like all fruit meals, but I will put lettuces with them. But normally for dinner, I'll have a salad and it'll have, a base of like lettuces or like cruciferous vegetables like kale, and I'll top it with vegetables, or tomatoes, savory fruits, and I'll make a homemade raw dressing of some sort. Um, could be like a nut based dressing, something like that. But
Do
it's
you
all very
calorie
filling.
count?
I normally eat like over 1,000 calories a day of fruit, and
Okay.
then probably like 300 to 400 uh, or so of greens and vegetables.
Yeah.
And some days I'll have overt fats, but I do keep it limited. So I'll keep like a 10% average. For
Okay.
me, honestly, this absolutely keeps me feeling my best.
Do you track
When
it?
I eat,
Do you track
I
calories
do,
and
I
macros?
do,
Yeah.
I do, and I don't do it every day, but I do it often because it's interesting to me to learn about this stuff,
Yeah.
Um,
Do you have an app?
and so
Do you use an app to track it or
I
just,
do, yeah. So
yeah.
I use Chronometer.
Okay.
Yeah, I use Chronometer. And like today I think I had like 1,900 calories, and probably 1,400 or 1,500 were from fruits, and then add in like I think maybe 50 calories of avocado, so maybe like 1,600 calories of fruits. Normally, salads, like my salads are extremely large. I eat them out of a serving bowl, so
Yeah.
my salads will be like maybe two heads of romaine and then the toppings on top,
Yeah.
and but even that large, they don't add up to that many calories,
Yeah.
except for like
The salt.
except for the the nuts and seeds, or the and I'll use like a raw tahini sometimes. That's like one of my favorite dressings, is like raw tahini with oranges in it. That's really delicious.
Yeah.
um
Yeah, your
and
dressings
I
look
we
amazing. I want to try and experiment. The recent one you shared looks amazing. Yeah, when putting orange
yeah.
in a lot of the dressings, I don't always crave orange or like more fruit-based dressings, but it's something now I'm called to experiment more with now. So rather than
Yeah.
the nut dressings, but yeah, to get the calories, sometimes I feel a calling to get more nuts in. Um, do you ever eat cooked food? When was the last time you ate cooked
uh
food?
Yeah, so I've had a potato in like the past 2 years, but no, I haven't eaten cooked food for a while. And the reason is because I don't feel as good, after I ate that potato. I did not feel as good. And so it's uh, for me, it's like I am very fulfilled eating what I'm eating.
Yeah,
In fact,
flags.
like I often tell my husband, because he always like wined and dined me, when we were younger, and
Mhm.
took me to the nicest places and bought me the most expensive meals. I mean, ever since we were kids, he always treated me, whatever I wanted, which, like,
Yeah,
I always wanted lobster and, like the most expensive seafood pasta on the menu,
mm,
and I often tell him, like, you see this salad right here, or you see these like zucchini noodles, I would never trade this for the most expensive. You remember that seafood dish you would buy me?
yeah,
Because it really is just so delicious. And it's not just so delicious, it's like the way it makes you feel. It's like it's just as addictive because it makes you feel really great,
yeah.
and
Nothing feels better
it,
than health. Yeah,
yeah, and it's just you feel vibrant, and it's just also really really tasty,
do you
and
eat out? Do you go to
uh
restaurants? Do you eat out at any time?
yeah.
Is it?
So we eat out sometimes, and when we do, I'll bring my own dressing. So I'll just order a salad and I'll just be
Yeah,
like, can I have it without this, and can you add extra of this? and they're always like, sure, no problem. You're not getting like the cheese and all that stuff. So yeah, you can have, extra veggies or,
Yeah,
extra tomatoes, whatever you want. And I'll just bring like a
extra.
little bit of dressing in my purse. And
Yeah,
then,
that's
and
good
then,
tip.
one time recently, my kids and I went out and we ate a raspberry vinaigrette. And you know what? Like, I'm not that upset about it. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
It was one time I could taste the powdered sugar in it, which was interesting because your taste buds become really aware because they're so clean,
yeah,
and you're not eating all this mixed up food all the time. I feel like, or
yeah,
I don't know what it is, but like, so yeah, but it's not a big deal, just like move on, and
yeah,
like it was enjoyable. We all enjoyed it. My kids, when we go out, we order as many salads as we want until we're full because
yeah,
people don't eat salad like we do. My
yeah,
kids also eat salads out of serving bowls.
yeah.
So it's, when you eat like this, it's a little bit different because you don't have that chicken breast that's 300 or 400 calories on the top of it. So you're
Yeah.
eating, like, it's more bites that you're eating, and it doesn't make you feel heavy and full the way that other food does.
Hmm.
So you could, like, I could eat my 3-pound salad, and then
Hmm.
an hour later, even though I don't really do this, I could be like, oh yeah, I'm ready to go for like a really long bike ride now, because
Yeah,
it
yeah.
doesn't make you feel like,
Heavy.
so
Yeah. Yeah, it's
yeah,
a good
like you
thing.
need
You
a
can
nap,
always do more. Like you feel like, yeah, it's not sedating, is it? You always feel like if I want to
and
go for
and
a run,
like
I can.
yeah, scientifically, it's just because those the foods that we eat, first of all, they are hydrating. They're not dehydrating like other foods are, but and they're not cooked. But it's that they don't take the body long to digest like
Yeah.
cooked food does. Even cooked vegetables versus non-cooked vegetables, it's double the time. And
Mm,
that's if they're like properly combined.
yeah.
If you're combining like meat with potatoes with a vegetable, that's going to take like maybe like 24 hours to digest,
Yeah.
whereas like we're eating a nut dressing which takes 10 to 12 hours to digest. So
Yeah.
there's a big difference in, and also what it's leaving in your body and how it's affecting, giving how what it's giving your body. When we eat, I think it's like 400 calories of meat. It takes 360 calories of that meal for digestion. When we eat 400 calories of watermelon, it takes 40 calories of that digestion to digest that food. Does
Yeah.
that make sense?
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's like
Yeah.
we're getting, when you're eating cooked meat, you're really, it's not really serving the purpose. It's more stimulating you,
Yeah. Yeah.
and the part
Stimulus.
of it, yeah, and like the part of it that is very cooked is not usable by the body. Really, only the rare parts are.
Yeah.
Um, and so
That's
it's
why people feel
interesting, but
sluggish, don't they? They feel sluggish, they're heavy, they're sedated, it's numbing, it's distracting. And it's not even just that just it has that knock-on effect later on how acidic it is to the body. There is a few I just wanted to touch on. The acidic of fruits and vegetables and meat, these foods. People, there's many that are confused with what's acidic outside of the body. When it becomes inside of the body, it becomes alkaline. Those that they
yeah,
still have this mindset of fruit. Some fruits are acidic, so we shouldn't be eating them. This is not going to create acidity. It's going to create acidity in the body. Whereas there's that. Have you seen that confusion with alkaline and acidic foods, and people confused when they actually enters the body? It totally changes the pH. Could you elaborate on some of that with the fruit? Acidic fruits. Once they enter the body, it changes.
yeah. So we would say like the end metabolism of something is alkaline, meaning after digestion, it's now alkaline. And there are three different subclasses of fruits, being acid, subacid, and sweet fruits. And in natural hygiene, we're taught to properly combine
Mm-hmm.
because of the different digestion times, as well as the different digestive enzymes that come into play. But mainly it's over digestion times with fruits. And like a melon, for example, takes an hour to 2 hours to digest. Melon should always be eaten alone. And then we have subacid fruits, and I mean acid fruits, and they take an hour to digest. Things like oranges, your mandarins, lemons, um, sour apples, passion fruit, anything that's sour is going to be an acid fruit. And then you get into subacid fruits, and subacid fruits are, not sour, but they're not super sweet like a banana. And so your subacid fruits are, and there's grapes can be in any category, and yeah, grapes can be in any category, and apples can be, an acid or a subacid. If they're like green tart apples, they're acid. If they're, sweeter, like a red apple or like a honey crisp, that would be a subacid fruit.
Yeah.
Grapes can be, sour, subacid, or sweet fruits. Like a muscat grape would be like a sweet fruit. Um, but so you have subacid fruits. Subacid take an hour to 2 hours to digest, and then you have sweet fruits that take 3 hours to digest, like a banana. And so, and like dates, any dried fruit is considered a sweet fruit. So even if you have dried pineapple, that's then in hygiene considered a sweet fruit, food, food
Yeah.
digestion and combining wise.
Are
But
you
yeah,
strict with
but
this?
all,
Are you strict with food combining?
I am, and I am, and occasionally I will do poor combinations. But I have two rules that I don't really break, and those are the bad combinations. So I won't combine proteins with a starch. So I won't combine like nuts and carrots.
Yeah.
And then I won't combine, and the reason for that is that you know starch cannot digest in the presence of an acid. And so what happens is when we digest, we would call these food classes substrates, between protein, acid, starch, fats. So we would call these substrates, different substrates. And I don't combine the starch and the protein because starch cannot digest in the presence of an acid. Protein requires an acid medium to be digested. So what happens is when we eat a protein like nuts, our body secretes acidic digestive enzymes that break down that protein, and they're the strongest at the fourth hour for protein digestion.
Mhm.
So if we eat carrots and we eat proteins together, then the starch is not being digested, and we're not receiving the nutritional benefit of that food. And the issue with that is then the carrots are then putrefying from not digesting. They're going through your body undigested, creating different off gases that starches
Right.
specifically, yeah, when they rot, they give off, each substrate gives off certain gases when it's rotting. And
Yeah.
so as it moves through the body undigested, it's poisoning. The body is absorbing this into the blood, so it's receiving that like poison essentially, which creates acidity in the body. So we always want to maintain, what I learn is that we always want to maintain an 80% alkaline diet, a 20% acid diet. And so essentially, even if you're eating an all alkalinizing diet, if you are miscombining it all the time, you're creating an acidic diet.
Yeah.
And I do know, there are some things that I read that are very, very interesting to me, and I will not discredit them. I'm really into like Norman Walker right now,
Yeah.
and I'm reading a lot of his books, and I read a lot of, I read all the hygiene books as well. I'm in school for natural hygiene as well. So besides just reading it for my own, I'm now studying it. But Norman Walker, he lived on fruits and vegetables, and he also ate other things that in hygiene are like unacceptable. He did extremely small amounts of like apple cider vinegar. He used olive oil in very small amounts. He also was into enemas and colonics, which is against natural hygiene.
Okay.
Um, but Norman Walker, the only food combining that he practiced was not mixing starches like grains and stuff.
Hmm.
He didn't eat grains, but if you were going to, don't mix them with fruits, vegetables, or proteins.
Oh
But
gosh.
he was
And
all
everyone does
game, like
it.
so he was all game as far as you can mix fruit, vegetable, and protein in
Yeah.
any combination. It didn't matter. And then you
Okay.
eat melons alone. So his
Yeah.
was a little bit different and more lenient. And I think that's okay because again, he's not mixing those starches and the proteins, but he considered, carrots were a vegetable to him. So he didn't consider it was more about the grains that he would consider a starch, or like beans and legumes, like things that were a direct starch, like not like the mild starches that I'm talking about, like carrots and stuff.
Yeah.
So because we would class those in natural hygiene as a mild starch. So
Yeah.
and and so he did mix these, he did mix all these things, and he mixed them a lot in his salads recipes that he gives. He has 20 ingredients in each salad, which in natural hygiene, we learn to not put 20 ingredients in a salad.
Less.
But
Yeah.
right, but Dr. Norman Walker, he lived till he was 110 years old,
Oh wow.
and he lived unassisted until he was 110 years old, and he was really into juicing as well, so he would juice vegetables all the time. And
Yeah.
he has a
Great.
very expensive juicer. His juicer that he developed, back when he was alive, it still sells for $2,100 today.
Wow.
um
Yeah.
and yeah, so I mean, like, I read all of this stuff, and for me, uh you know for me, the food combining thing, if I was to miscombine something once in a blue moon, wouldn't be a big deal to me, but it really isn't what I do right now,
Yeah,
you know?
I always
And
call them the non-negotiable. Like they're my non-negotiable things I do. I think I do agree having parameters and discipline, it's necessary. That's what gives us freedom. So having these
yeah,
in place, I definitely, yeah. There's things that you can look at how we're being a bit dogmatic, but what are non-negotiable and how we can continue. We know the consequences. There's negative. There's always a consequence of our actions, and
yeah. And
you've
there's
got
there's like there's one other rule too that I don't break, which is acids with starches. Was so like acid fruits. So that would be like any sweet fruit. You would never, like, I wouldn't mix with carrots, or I wouldn't mix with beets, or I
okay.
wouldn't mix with potatoes if I was going to eat potatoes.
Yeah.
And that's just again because of the digestion piece. And if you eat these things all the time, you might have indigestion all the time and not notice it, um or your body might be used to it, or you might have gas and just think it's like it's
Normal.
normal,
Yeah,
because
yeah.
you're like used to it. But then if you do like properly combine all the time, and then you improperly combine, you notice it, you
Those
know what I
different
mean? So it's
experiment, isn't
just,
it? It's all part of experimenting and seeing. Yeah, you don't know until
but
you
I will
try
say
it.
that though, that I think that eating eating all raw foods, even if you're going to combine them improperly, or even if you're going to eat sometimes cooked potatoes with tomatoes, in your salad, I think it's great. And I think that it's excellent. And if that works for you and
Yeah,
you feel
yeah,
awesome, I think you should do that, because it's ultimately like we each just want to feel our best selves, and then we're sharing what we're doing with others because we
mm,
feel our best selves.
yeah,
But if something else works for you, then I think that's excellent, and I think that
yeah,
you should just love it and enjoy it and live your life doing that if
yeah.
if
It's the
you
journey.
feel your best
Yeah, the
you know
process. Yeah. So we'll come to a close now, and I do want you back on, Alexandra, because I've got loads of questions for you, and I'm going to ask others as well. Some quite because I had quite a few
myself personally what I want to ask, and I'm sure others will want to know more. But just in the interim of next time you come on, hopefully you will come back on. Can you share where we can find you? I know you shared at the beginning, so you're on Instagram, you're on Facebook, you've got even a community group that's thriving. I love it. And if you really want to delve deeper into the food combinations, experiment and try, and the hygiene diet, and talking more with Alexandra, can you share where all that information is? And I'll put it in the description box below as well.
Yeah, so I'm Hygienic Mama on Instagram, and Mama is, MOMMA. And then I run Hygienic Human Diet Group on Facebook, and I also hold a Hygienic Human Diet Group challenge every other month. And so we're in the middle of a month now. Our next month will be October. You can sign up for it. It's $20. I provide a lot of information, recipes, inspiration for smoothie recipes, salad recipes, mono meal ideas, and it's a very supportive community. Everybody's improving their health and supporting each other doing it, and that can be really helpful. That's actually why, part of the reason why I created the group to begin with. But yeah, that's where you can find me.
Yeah, fantastic. Thank you, Alexandra. So I'll put all that information in the description box. And if you do have any questions at all that we can ask Alexandra on the next interview, I'd love to. We've also got a calendar coming out very, very soon. That link will be in the description box as well if you want access to our gorgeous girls in this raw vegan community that have got all different kind of diets within the raw lifestyle. So, and it's very inspiring. It's not just for men to look at these gorgeous women. It is inspiring. We have quotes every month.
Yeah.
All that is in the description box. And if you'd like to say this with me, Alexandra, I'll be so happy. I always end my calls with be, feel, and stay rolicious. And I do a kiss and then a little if you wish. But so I say be, feel, and stay rolicious. Do you want to say that with me?
Yeah, but can I say one more thing real quick?
Yes.
I just want to mention to everybody, listening, whether you are a raw vegan or you're, vegan and wanting to be raw vegan, or you're not vegan at all. I just want to say that, health is dimensional. And while diet can create, the proper things in all these other dimensions, our diet is one part of our life. Mm-hmm. So we have to have a calm mind, a happy mind. We have to get exercise, fresh air, sunshine, and good rest and good hydration. And those are the main pillars of health. Yeah. So while we talk about diet here, there's more to creating health beyond ideal diet. So all the things matter,
I always say it's the foundation. It overlaps into all that. When we're eating well, we start to look at other, it decreases stress. It all overlaps. Yeah, I 100% agree with that. Thanks for sharing that nugget, because to take away.
All right. And don't tell me you're closing again.
Yeah. Be, feel, and stay rolicious. But you can just keep them married. Don't worry too much. Don't overthink it. So you ready? Be, feel, and stay
rolicious.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thanks, Tony.